I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This darkness takes everything. Everyone.
Senua, are you sure you want to do this?
This is my battle. I have to face it alone.
Where will you go?
I don't know.
For how long?
I don't know.
Just promise me that you will come back to me.
I will come back to you. I promise.
Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a good game. A very good game. It's so good that I don't even feel like I need to yell about how good it is, not like I usually do. You know when you play or watch something really powerful, and then it just ends, and you're just sitting there stunned. You're just silently like, fuck, that was good. Yeah, that's what Hellblade is like. It's a very special game, and I'm tempted to compare it to other emotional adventures like Journey or Shadow of the Colossus. And while Hellblade is reminiscent of other games, it never feels like anything's ripped off or copied. You might briefly think of Dark Souls when you're in combat, but the feeling never lasts, because Hellblade's design feels truly unique.
Stay still, stay quiet, hide, don't turn around.
Their gods can see into your mind. They will use this power to destroy you.
They won't stop me. I can still feel it.
Whatever's left of him, they will never let him go.
In Hellblade, you follow Senua, a Celtic warrior who's on an odyssey to retrieve her fiancé's soul from the underworld. And if that premise isn't enough for you, Senua is also heavily implied, but not explicitly stated, to be a paranoid schizophrenic. This leads to a cavalcade of voices being present at all times, sometimes offering hints or warnings, but also exposition and insight on the story and characters. Instead of a flashing symbol over Senua's head to warn her of an incoming attack, you'll hear one of the voices warning you of the attacks that you can't see.
Behind you!
Your sense of hearing is a vital tool that you use to complete Senua's journey. At the beginning of the game, you get a message imploring you to experience the game with headphones. And yeah, I think it's probably a necessity. Having played through the game twice, once with headphones and then once without, they are no doubt two entirely different experiences. Things are definitely less stressful without headphones, but stress and fear are part of the experience. There's almost always at least one voice speaking to you at all times in this game, and most of the time, it's going to be more than one voice. The voices never feel like a gimmick. They truly feel like another natural part of this experience. This allows the player to fully immerse into the role of Senua. You feel the weight of everything she goes through because you're in her head at all times.
It doesn't mean that it's not already here.
She can't do that. She can't go in there.
As far as gameplay goes, it might be easy to say that things are divided between combat, puzzles, and exposition. The last one was going to be exploration, but that really isn't a value of this game. Most of your traversal through this world will consist of a voice lending insight into the events of the game. The puzzles are what you'll be doing for most of the game, with fights thrown in every once in a while to spice things up. When I went into this game, I had no idea what to expect. I didn't even know how long it was. At the beginning, you do a sequence of puzzles where the main mechanic involves having your perception changed by these portal things here. Simply looking through them isn't enough. You have to walk through them and change your world to continue. This leads to situations where you have to walk back and forth through older portals to change areas that you may have opened a new path in. Things can get pretty confusing after a while. When I started the game, I legitimately thought that this was the main mechanic. I thought, oh cool, the illusion portal stuff is pretty interesting. I guess this is the main mechanic. This is how the puzzles are going to work. That was just a mechanic for one level. It's used again very briefly a few hours later, but for the most part, every puzzle introduces new ideas. And all of these puzzles push you to use your senses in ways that other games wouldn't even dare. There's a whole puzzle that is actually near impossible if you're hearing impaired. Senua is thrown into this nightmare world where everything is pitch black, and you as a player have to rely solely on your hearing to navigate the area. You search with your ears to hear wind, rushing water, and finally, the growling of some unseen horrors in the darkness. Most games would offer other solutions to this in service of those who may have disabilities, but this game takes a chance in order to deliver a true audio-visual experience. And yeah, I didn't even mention the visuals yet, but do I really have to? I think they speak for themselves. This is hands down one of the best looking video games I have ever seen, and if you guys know me, you know that I don't really care about high fidelity graphics that much. Senua is easily the most realistic video game character that I've seen in a long time. The woman who plays her, Melina Jurgens, isn't even an actress. She was just a video editor for the company. In the dev diaries, she explains how she uses her fear and inexperience to enhance her performance and make Senua feel more genuine.
I didn't realize that acting is actually my worst nightmare, and I've always avoided it, even in school.
It's truly baffling how someone can put out this powerful of a performance on their first try. She also plays every one of the voices except for the main narrator lady. Her performance is hands down the best thing in this game. And I mean, the whole game revolves around it, so it's a good thing that it works so well. Now earlier I called this game an audio-visual experience, but that doesn't seem to be the proper identity for the game. I'd probably change that to a stream of consciousness experience, because every sense is bombarded with stimulus and pushed to the limit. Within a span of 3 minutes, you'll find yourself running through a flaming nightmarish hellscape, with your sight and hearing obstructed by fire and chaos. You undergo some light platforming, with time being a critical factor as Senua will die if you spend too long running through the area, and then demon Vikings attack, making the scene more tense as you have to defeat them before the flames consume you. And after that, you break through a portal and get yelled at by an FMV, a real recording of a human man. There are times when you are barely given a chance to catch your breath in this game. There are times when this game is emotionally exhausting, but I do truly believe that Hellblade is best enjoyed in one sitting. It loses some of the potency when you take too long of a break before you complete the game.
You destroyed everything, everyone, but not me. Fight now!
I feel like now I should probably talk about the combat. The combat is the one thing that I initially loved, then hated, and then loved again during my second playthrough. If you play on hard or auto difficulty, then the later fights can take a long time. They can be quite a drag. It was never too hard to win, as I only managed to die maybe 1 or 2 times during combat, but it's just that on higher difficulties the enemies take way more hits to kill, which can get pretty tedious once you're on like hour 4 or 5 of the game. For the first time in my life, I'm actually going to recommend the easy or medium difficulty. So if you find that the combat in the last third of the game is getting pretty tedious, don't be afraid to bump the difficulty down. After all, the game isn't really about fighting. Now, I'm going to explain a bit more thoroughly how the combat works in this game, and why it works so well. Combat is used to break up the monotony of the puzzles, or the exploration. The first time I saw an enemy, I was actually filled with dread because the game never actually teaches you how to fight. It doesn't really teach you how to do anything for that matter. All of the button prompts are on the pause menu, but when combat is concerned, it's not initially clear what Senua is capable of. In one combo, you can perform 2 light hits, a heavy hit, 2 more light hits, a dash leading into a dashing strike, and then start a completely new combo without missing a beat. You can technically infinitely combo if you're good enough. The melee attack can be used to stagger opponents or break the guard of enemies that carry shields. Then if you manage to figure it out on your own, you'll find out that with a perfectly timed block, Senua will perform a parry that can be followed up by a counterattack depending on which of the 3 attacks you press. Over the course of the game, you'll actually get better at fighting and controlling Senua. The combat may seem simple at first, but even near the end of my second playthrough, I was still finding unique animations and combos that I'd never seen before. Now, it's always slightly bugged me how in games you can be at 1 health, but you can still do crazy flips and attack just like you normally can. Now in this game, when Senua is near death, her attacks are much slower and much weaker. She can't dash or roll as easily, and you can still parry, but you can't counterattack. The enemies follow these rules as well. Some of the best moments in the combat were when me and my enemies were beaten to a pulp, and it just turned into a gritty brawl to the death. Senua never really gets that much stronger in this game either. There are no skill trees or unlockables. Every new mechanic you obtain is directly related to the story. Senua gets the mirror and the magic sword because it makes sense in the context of the story. These are the only 2 times in the whole game when you get a new move. One thing I love is that you can just take this attack and chain it together if you also manage to dodge while charging it up. It rewards tight and reflexive control, and it allows you to truly feel powerful.
Do you feel the blood running cold on your skin? Do you hear their endless cries? Do you smell their putrid wounds?
Now, I was going to describe the story and the narrative in full detail, but I really don't want to spoil anything. The whole point of this game is to experience this story, and if I spoiled it, it kind of ruined the point. All I'm going to say is that this is a game about perception. That is the core idea. A lot of people think it's mental illness, but that's not really it. Senua's voices change your perception of the world. They constantly try to tell you how you should feel, and they rarely agree with each other. The people in Senua's life perceive her mental illness in different ways. Some see it as a gift, while others see it as a curse. You use your perception and your senses to undergo challenges, as I explained earlier. At every turn, you're led to question what's real and what isn't. Being in the mind of a mentally ill person leads to many scenarios where you have no reliable source of information. Some people may have heard of the permadeath controversy, the cryptic foreboding message that states, if you fail, the darkness will spread, and if the darkness spreads to Senua's head, her quest is over and progress will be lost. Now, if the permadeath situation turns you off completely, just know that it's not exactly what you think it is. This is the only time that the game is going to show you text on a screen telling you a message, and I'm telling you that even this is messing with your perception of the game. You should never assume that you know what's going on in this game. Just know that the narrative has equal moments of despair, sorrow, and inspiring triumph. There are moments that stick with you that I just have no right to spoil. Hell, even the price of the game defied my expectations. A game that looks like this, with a decent 7 or 8 hours of content, $30. I'll just say, having beaten this game twice because I enjoyed it that much, $30 is robbery. Ninja Theory made a game that belongs on the list of must-play single-player experiences. Now, I'm not going to rate this game on a scale from 1 to 10. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say that if you enjoy video games as a form of interactive storytelling, then pop in your headphones, lock yourself away for a few hours, and let the voices in Senua's head become your own.
And now that you're home, he's so far away.